Now, a ban that the government says is so important, it's the moral equivalent of war. And in fact, the government calls it a war, the war on drugs. We're in our 40th year of this war. How's it working out for us? Drug use hasn't changed much. 19 million Americans have used some illegal drug last month, they say. Dealers still murder each other and bystanders. SWAT teams break into people's homes. You know, there are more than 100 such raids in America now every day. The drug war is the reason we lock up a higher percentage of our citizens than any other country, more than Russia, Rwanda, Cuba. But it's worth it, say conservatives like Coulter, which depresses the heck out of me because you're so smart. Why don't you get the folly of this drug war?
I have one statement for you: the welfare state. No, people cannot do whatever they want to do, live however they want to live, as long as Ann has to pay for it when they can't hold a job and raise their own kids and buy their own food and pay their own rent. You get rid of the welfare state and we'll talk about people sitting home shooting heroin all day. But right now, oh, and now I have to pay for their health care.
So because we have a socialized welfare system, we have to give up all these other freedoms? Because people...
Yeah, as long as Ann is paying for it.
How about motorcycles? They be illegal?
No, because they tend to kill themselves. Same thing with smoking. Smokers die early. The tobacco companies won't tell you that, but smokers save the Social Security Administration
money. Save us money on Social Security. Good. So they're helping us out.
Yes, they are. But as long as we have a welfare state, we have to care what people do with their lives and whether they can be productive citizens. Now, if you got rid of the welfare state, then I would say, I'd just go back to the Constitution. I think the Founding Fathers got it right. Let the states decide, let the localities decide, and then, you know, you have a 50-state competition. One state will be legalizing prostitution and drugs and, you know, all the other things you wacky libertarians love. Another state, the nice conservative states like Alabama, will not. And we can compare and see what policies work, what policies lead to a productive, happy citizenry. But until you get rid of the welfare state, not interested in hearing about welfare or legalizing drugs.
All right, well, let's accept your argument that there's all this harm from the drugs. What about the harm from the law? What about all the dead bodies? What about all the people murdering each other? We're creating death all over the world with our law.
Well, I mean, I think you could say that for just the murder laws themselves. People murder for lots of reasons.
We have no wine murders or cigarette murders or cartels because it's legal.
Not just because it's legal. I think there is now we're living in the wacky libertarian fantasy world of no welfare state.
No welfare. Let's assume no welfare state.
So we're moving to that, and
let's have no welfare state. But
yes,
let's assume.
we agree on that.
Okay.
We're assuming that. Now, I would want to see the results of Alabama versus California. I'm guessing that they would have different laws on the moral, social issues. I would want to take a look at that, and I'd have an open mind. But I do think there is a difference between drugs and alcohol. People can drink wine over dinner without getting drunk. Smoking, certainly. People smoke and stay up all night working. A lot of work gets done on tobacco, whereas drugs are pretty much specifically just to get high. It's not, I'm
but
enjoying
a lot of people
the smell
drink
of this
to get
marijuana.
high.
Yeah, but that's more of a subsidiary point.
But you think most people drink for the taste, not to get high? I admit, I drink to get a little buzz.
No, a lot of people drink wine with dinner without getting drunk.
A lot of people do, but a lot of people drink to get high. We don't try to ban it. I mean, isn't getting high, altering your consciousness, part of freedom? People want to do that?
The other difference between alcohol and drugs, for one thing, I do think there's a difference that one is pretty much exclusively get high. The other one is, I like a gin and tonic, or I'm having wine with dinner, and maybe you get a little bit of a buzz. But the other thing is, you want to have a few things that are illegal that aren't that harmful, you know, because if daddy's smoking pot with him at the Little League game, then they're going to have to do something much harder just to defy mommy and daddy. But no, right now we do still have a stigma attached to illegal drugs, and we ought to be, I'm just saying we ought to be very careful before removing that stigma, because it's very hard to go back, as the country found out with Prohibition. And by the way, during Prohibition, all of the alcohol-related diseases, accidents, murders, homicides did go down substantially.
Murder
Cirrhosis
went up.
of the liver.
Maybe cirrhosis of the liver went down, but murder went
Accidents
up
related
sharply.
to alcohol?
Murder went way up. We have a graph of murder.
I don't believe that.
Here's the murder rate. How about Holland? You talk about the stigma. Holland decriminalized marijuana. Are all the kids smoking in Holland?
A lot of American kids are.
A lot of people go
Holland.
there to smoke. But what about the Dutch kids?
I don't think we think of Holland as an economic or military powerhouse. I don't think we want to set that as our standard. And by the way, they're lovely people.
And for the record,
but it's
17%
kind of a mediocre
of
country.
Americans say they've smoked marijuana, 5% of the Dutch. So despite legalization, it's less popular.
I mean, you can't be saying that if you legalize something, fewer people will do it. If you legalize something, more people will do it.
That's what happened in Holland. They took the sexiness out of the illegal.
No, that's a crazy theory. The theory is it's a different populace. It's a different population. Obviously, we have
went up after legalization, and then it went down with that population. Sure, it's all legal. People tried it. Okay, this isn't Nirvana.
That is one
then
theory,
it went down.
but
what
I don't
happened in
believe
Holland?
it. I think generally, not generally, an iron law of economics is you make something illegal, you get less of it. You subsidize it, you get more of it. And whatever it shows about the immediate legalization, maybe other people were coming across the border, I don't know what it is, but I think the fact that only 5% of people in Holland doing illegal drugs versus legal drugs versus 17% where it's illegal in this country shows that this country has a population that is more susceptible to taking drugs.
Could be, and having it be illegal, see, it hasn't deterred these 17%.
Yes, it has. I mean, that's like saying the murder laws haven't deterred people. How many murders would occur if it wasn't illegal? You can't say because we have zero incidents of something that a law making it illegal has not reduced its incidence.
How about the hypocrisy? You have Bush, Obama admitting they've used these drugs, Sarah Palin, and we want to lock up other people who do it? Newt Gingrich, Clarence Thomas.
No, but look, I think probably all of those people, or you could get a similar group of people, would say they have run red lights, sped in school zones, told lies. That doesn't mean these are good things to do. It means humans do little things like that.
Many conservatives just think drugs are a bad thing, and you ought not encourage society to do drugs. That's where I think Ann Coulter is coming from. You could have argued it on a utilitarian ground. On the one hand, yes, some people are going to do drugs who don't do them right now if they're legal. On the other hand, crime will very likely go down because about 50% of all crime is directly or indirectly related to people robbing and maiming and stealing in order to support their habit. A drug would probably be no more than a package of cigarettes were it to be made legal. You could talk about the damage it does to our criminal justice system, the corruption.
Stick with that. You're right. It would be cheap, the drugs. So wouldn't many more people use?
Yeah, I think initially, because in Prohibition there was an uptick in the consumption of alcohol for a while, and then it went away. People were intrigued by the fact that it was illegal, and they wanted to say "screw you" to the government. They imbibed. They got bored with it. It went down. Cocaine use has gone down in this country. Crack use has gone down in this country. After people find out the harmful effects of it, pretty much they self-correct.
David
You
Bose?
could say all those things to her, and it wouldn't make any difference because she's a woman with an Ivy League law degree who clerked for a federal judge who cannot think logically about this issue. She said, for instance, well, what about the welfare state? People use drugs, they lie around their house, we're going to have to pay for them. Well, that's a fair point. That's also true of alcohol. Plenty of people mess up their lives with alcohol. Should we say alcohol's illegal until we get rid of the welfare state?
But there's a larger issue here, and the larger issue here is one of freedom. It's my body. And once you start telling me that I can't do what I want with my body in terms of drugs, why can't you tell me that I should exercise 3 or 4 times a week? Why can't you tell me that I should eat fruits and vegetables? Why can't you tell me I should read Shakespeare instead of reading the kind of literature that I like to read? Why can't you tell me that I'm watching too much television? The welfare state argument extends to everything. There are lots of things that we do that are harmful.
You will never convince Ann Coulter or Bill Riley or Sean Hannity because the conservatism is a fundamentally illogical, inconsistent perspective. It babbles on about individual responsibility, fiscal responsibility, and all that, and yet they want to impose a certain view on everyone. It doesn't believe in freedom despite its rhetoric.